Most runners show up to a marathon or a key long run with the wrong fueling plan, either way too little or way too much, and that usually ends the same way: complete bonking or severe stomach issues that completely destroys your run. But it doesn't have to be that way. The science around endurance fueling has changed a lot, and understanding it can completely transform how you feel in every long run and race. I'm Göran, a running coach, physiotherapist and runner who got fueling wrong for so many years, until I spent the last couple of years digging deep into the science and research and also testing it in my own racing and training. And thanks to smart fueling, I've been able to unlock new levels of performance, finishing marathons strong and even winning ultra marathons. And in this video I'll share a practical science-based guide to fueling for long runs and races, so you can perform at your very best and hopefully never have to bonk again. When Eliud Kipchoge ran under 2 hours in the marathon, it wasn't just the super hyped shoes or the pacers that unlocked that insane performance. It was probably even more the fueling. Because during the Breaking 2 project, he took in about 100 grams of carbs per hour. And he never faded and finished stronger than ever. So that moment changed how we think about the marathon fueling. And I made a full video on the high carb revolution and how it's unlocking a lot of performance in endurance sport. But today I'll keep it more practical. Still, to understand why fueling matters so much, there's a few key things you need to know. At marathon effort, your body burns mostly carbohydrates, and even with the perfect carb loading, your glycogen stores in your muscles and liver runs out after about 90 to 120 minutes. So that's when you bonk, unless you fuel during the run. And the science is pretty clear. Fueling right is the difference between barely getting to the finish line and finishing strong, crushing your goal. Studies like this one here have shown that when your fueling mix includes both glucose and fructose, your body can absorb and use a lot more carbs because they travel through 2 different transporters in the gut. So that's why most modern sport nutrition products, like this one that Eliud Kipchoge used in his Breaking 2 project, now combine these two. And that simply allows you to take in more energy without getting stomach problems. Other studies like this one here have found that you can actually train your gut to handle more carbs during your runs. And after a few weeks of training with high carb intake, athletes absorbed more and had fewer stomach problems. And one of my favorite findings comes from this mountain marathon studies, where runners taking in 120 grams of carbs per hour had less muscle damage and better recovery than those at 60 or 90 grams. So getting your fueling right isn't just about avoiding bonking on race days. It can actually make you recover faster, which will allow you to get more out of every single training block. And that's where precision matters. You need to find your personal sweet spot for carb intake, and that's exactly what I will show you how to do next. Okay, so how do you actually turn all of this information into a fueling plan that you can trust? Here's a simple 5-step approach that works both for training and racing. And after these steps, I will show you my actual process of fueling planning, both for races and training. First, make sure that you pick a fuel, whether it's a gel or a sport drink, that have a mix of fructose and glucose to be able to take in more carbs without stomach problems. Secondly, start with what your stomach currently can handle. Maybe that's around 60 grams per hour without issues, then start there. And don't jump directly into 120 grams per hour. Increase it gradually, about 5 to 10 grams every few long runs, and try different gels, drink mixes, or even homemade options. By the way, I will talk more about that later, because you can actually save a lot of money and get the same performance effects, but more on this later. Third, match your fueling to your actual effort. At the marathon effort, roughly 80 to 90% of your max heart rate, most runners perform best somewhere in the range between 70 grams and 120 grams per hour. But pushing those higher ranges will for most people recover training on taking in that higher amounts. Personally, after just a few weeks of gut training, I have consistently been able to taking in 100 grams plus for all of my quality work and long runs without any problems. And fourth, timing matters a lot. Start fueling early. I always take my first gel or sip of sports drink right at the start line. Then keep it steady. Small, frequent dosages are far better than big gaps followed by some panic fueling. My go-to rhythm is about every 20 minutes. And fifth, use your long runs as basically your lab. Treat them as rehearsal for race day and test your fueling strategy and practice timing and see what your stomach can handle there. So fueling these runs will not only train your gut to handle more carbs, it will also help you perform better in training. And as mentioned, boost your recovery and allow you to stack more high quality sessions week after week. Now, if you manage to do all of these 5 steps, it really works, but I find it's a pretty big hustle to calculate every time to dial in my fueling for my specific run. So that's why I spend way too much time on creating the tool I always wished existed. Okay, so this is my endurance fueling calculator. Let's start by showing my process of planning my fueling for the upcoming Valencia Marathon. That is my next big goal race, and after that I will show you my a bit different approach to planning fueling for my training runs. So in Valencia my target is to go under 2 hours and 45 minutes, so I put 2:44 here as my duration. And my heart rate will be around 80 to 90% of max, and my weight goes here, and then the temperature should be around 15 Celsius or 59 Fahrenheit. Next, I choose how well my gut is trained for high carb intake. You get a few different levels here with short explanations, and right now I would say that I'm well GI trained, so I select that. And all these inputs are used to calculate your optimal carbs, fluids and electrolytes. But if you already know what carb target you want, you can also enter a custom number right here. Now down here you choose your fueling products, gels, sports drinks, a combination or solids. For racing I always go with gels only. That way I have full control over exactly how many carbs I'm taking in, and I can just grab water at the aid stations. And the moment you start taking random sports drink from the tables at the aid station, you're basically guessing over your fueling, because you never know how strong they have mixed those sports drinks. So I'll select gels here, and I basically added all of the products that exist here into this big list, and you can search for your favorite one as well. And my current go-to is Fuel of Norway, so I just pick that one. And down here you can also get guided to do a sweat test during a run to get your fluid calculations more exact. I haven't done that yet, so I just let the calculator estimate based on my inputs here. And that's it. Now I have a complete science-based fueling plan, and here in the summary you can see that I'm hitting my target carb intake, my fluids and sodium look good as well. I also get this visual timeline showing when I should take the different gels. And here in the fueling schedule I get my exact plan that I can follow really easily. And besides my gel intake I also get the info on how much water to drink each time to meet my fluid targets based on my inputs. At the bottom you get a clear summary and get some science-based general guidance based on your plan. One thing I have to add to my Valencia Marathon fueling schedule is a caffeine strategy, since it's basically the most potent legal performance enhancer you can get when it comes to endurance sports. So I want to take advantage of that. And to add this to my plan here, I switch the include caffeine strategy toggle, and instantly it adds a caffeine preload advice before the race, and then automatically swaps out to the caffeine version of my selected gel for one of the gels that I take. So this will be my race day plan for Valencia, but there's one problem. Check this out here. Down here you get an estimated cost based on the products you've selected, And for this single marathon, these yields would cost me around $30. And that adds up pretty quickly and becomes a lot of money if you try to fuel every single long run like this. Of course, you need to test your actual race day products in training to make sure that it works well with your gut. But for regular training, to use expensive products like this, it's, in my opinion, throwing a lot of money away. So here is my absolute favorite part with my calculator, and it's an option here to switch to a homemade budget-friendly sports drink. That's what I use for most of my long training runs, so let's first save this plan as Valencia Marathon and set up a training run instead, and I will show you my process here. So this one will be about 2.5 hours at roughly 70 to 80% of max heart rate. And I won't use caffeine for this one. So now I toggle on the homemade drink option, and the calculator gives me easy instructions on exactly how to mix my own sports drink with the right amounts of carbs, fluids and sodium for this specific run. So the simplest version here just uses a 1:1 glucose to fructose ratio, which means you can just use regular table sugar. It's naturally that ratio, so that's what I use most of the time, and it's worked perfectly fine for me. But if you want to match what's in most commercial drinks, you can go with a 2:1 ratio or a 1 to 0.8 glucose to fructose ratio by mixing table sugar and some maltodextrin, which is also super cheap to get. So doing this saves me around $16 on a single long run compared to the average commercial products, and it works just as well. In fact, when I set the Strava course record up Norway's second highest mountain, I fueled with a homemade mix based on these exact calculations that my calculator provided me with. When I started building this calculator, it was honestly just for myself because I wanted to stop doing all the math before every run, but it ended up making my fueling so much better and more precise. And now I use it every single week for my long runs and quality sessions. So I made it available as a perk for my Patreon members, and if you don't want to become a member but still want to use this tool, you can also get it as a one-off purchase. Just click the link below and check it out. And I'm constantly keeping developing this, trying to make it the best tool on the market. So if you want to try it, feel free to leave any feedback. Train smart, have fun, and I will see you in the next video.